Hey there, my fellow lunatics, Dakon the Mad here, and today we are doing a critical hit build. This one focuses on getting your critical hit chance up there at 100%, while then after that focusing on critical hit damage. And this one's got a variety of ways that we can put it together. Lots of options based on where you are in the game and exactly what you're looking for. So let's go ahead and jump right on in with the gear. Alright, so let's start with the gear that's going to be the same no matter what. First, we have got the Polished Copper Cross Necklace. This thing gives you an 8% boost to critical hit chance, as well as an 18% critical hit damage. You get this from the jewelry workbench. You just have to craft up the Copper Cross Necklace. And as long as you have the ability to get a polished version, which you need at least, I believe, an 85 in the crafting skill, but ideally you want 100 for your maximum chance. This is what you're going to get when you get the polished version. Then we've got the Polished Golden Spike Ring. This gives you a 9% critical hit chance, 22% critical hit damage, and an 18 thorns damage. You're going to want 2 of these things. You also craft these at the jewelry workbench, going for that golden spike ring, and you just got to get that polished version. Then we have got the Concealed Blade. This gives you a 12% critical hit chance. You're going to find this off of mobs in the desert, assassins. You can also find it by breaking chests and various destructible items. Now, depending on if you're going with a ranged build or a melee build, there are a couple of different weapons that you can choose from. The ranged build, you're going to want the throwing daggers because those give you a 19% critical hit chance. If you're going for the melee, I recommend the Galaxite Dagger because of its 18% critical hit chance. The biggest disadvantage of this weapon is its short range. You have to get in really close, which does put you at risk of getting hit, making this a little bit more challenging of a weapon if you are doing boss fights, but it doesn't affect it at all if you're just walking around doing anything. However, if you are good at dodging and moving around, then the Galaxite Dagger could work just fine for you. It's all about skill at that point. So let's take a look at the first set of armor that you can wear for this critical hit build. And that first set is the Paladin Armor Reinforced. With the Paladin Armor, you're going to get an extra 8% from the mask, 9% from the harness, and 8% from the pants. So without any buffs of any kind, any food or anything else, let's get rid of the pet. You are sitting at an 85% critical hit chance. This is just in gear. So once you add pets and once you add food, you are easily going to get yourself above 100%. Now with this pet, I happen to get a 12% critical hit chance, which puts me at a 97%. This pet happens to have 4 Spirit of the Hawks. We will go over pets later on, but if I happen to have 5 Spirit of the Hawks, that would get me that extra 3%. And with this gear alone and an Owl Lux that has 5 Spirit of the Hawk skills, you can have a 100% critical hit chance with no buff food. And if that's what you're going for, this is what you're going to want. Now, how much damage once you've gotten all of your buff food eaten and everything else going does this set actually do? Well, we'll go over all of the food here in a second, but we're also going to go ahead and test out every single one of these builds by killing Igneous and seeing what kind of damage I'm doing to him with each individual hit. So when I'm fully buffed and I'm wearing the Paladin set, what do I do to Igneous? Well, let's find out. All right, so I am here in my Paladin set. And here's what we look like. 124% critical hit chance, 239% critical hit damage, and we're doing 526 to 624 or 42. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. All right, this looks like we're averaging about 2.5K. I'm looking at 1.5K and 2.5K is a lot. A couple 3s in there. There was an 8, but that was probably one of those random triple damages. So 2.5K seems to be the norm for this one. But here's the thing. You do have buff food. And the epic version of the Elder Mold Cheese provides a 27% critical hit chance, which means we have room to adjust what we want to do here for our critical hit. And I've been doing some testing, and really once you hit about 95% critical hit chance, you're pretty much hitting critically every single hit. I never once didn't hit with a critical hit once I was sitting at 95%. So we don't actually have to get to 100%. We can get pretty close to it, which can allow us to do more things like add in extra crit damage, add in just general damage, thorns. There's a variety of things that we can do based on the kind of play style that you have or what you're interested in, or really what you have access to. So for example, we could go with the Galaxite armor set. This set is much easier to get than some of the other armor sets we're going to talk about in just a second, and it provides additional critical hit damage on all of its pieces. Plus, if you are at max health, then you get an extra 12.7% damage in general, making this a good boost to just damage and to general crit damage. With the Paladin armor, we were sitting at about 177% critical hit damage, while with this, we're at 237%. And yeah, right now I'm at 72% critical hit chance, but let's eat that food and switch back over, and now I'm at a 99% critical hit chance. So it's just as good as the Paladin once I've eaten that food. Now, with the same as our Paladin set, what does the Galaxite set do when we kill Igneous? So let's see what kind of damage it does, and then after that, we're going to take a look at our next set. Okay, so now we've got a 99% critical hit chance, we've got 99% critical hit damage, and we're doing 557 to 679. Let's see what we got. So we're definitely doing more. Looks like we're averaging about 3 to 3.5k here. Ooh, that was a big hit. All right. So with the Galaxite set, we're looking at about 1,000 more damage per hit. If you can, the God Sent armor is an excellent set to choose. The main reason is the fact that it triggers the additional soul powers more often. Not only that, but it also just adds an overall bonus to your general damage. Yeah, your critical hit damage does drop back down, but your critical hit chance is still sitting at 99%, which is good enough, believe me. And you're going to trigger those soul powers much more often. If you're doing ranged, the Omeroth Tornado does a lot of damage over and over and over again. And the Soul of Ra-Akar, this one will just keep triggering. I have seen it go off 4 or 5 times in a row and just do a ton of damage very, very quickly. So this set of armor is really good and actually can do quite a lot of damage because of its ability to trigger those soul powers more often. Let's take a look and see exactly what it can do. Okay, and now we are wearing the God Sent armor, and our damage is much, much higher. We got a pretty good critical hit chance, and our critical hit damage is also pretty high. So let's take a look. All right, so this one looks like it's averaging. Let's take a closer look. We got the 3.5s, we got 3.1s, I saw some 2.5s, but notice all of those 1.5s that keep happening. Those are the tornadoes going off. So that tornado was proccing constantly. I think that one was actually even faster, despite the fact that it did a little bit less in its initial damage, just because of those soul powers. And finally, we have got the Scarab armor, which you can get off of Ra-Akar. This armor may look very familiar to those of you who have seen my previous Thorns video, because this setup is actually almost identical to my Thorns setup. I have a different necklace in the Thorns slot because I'm using one of, it's like this, I'm using the Omeroth in that set. And so to get the 3 set bonus for the Scarab set, I have the Scarab necklace in here. But in this case, I'm going full Scarab set so that I can get that Thorns set bonus. I've got my high Thorns, and I am ready to go and do my attacks. Let's see what this one can do when I'm fully buffed, and see if it's an even more powerful version of my old Thorns build, or if it's just not quite as good. Let's find out. And finally, we have got our Scarab armor, where our damage is by far the highest, and our crit is still pretty average, but now we also have Thorns on top of it. That's really high. I have a feeling this one's going to be the most powerful, but let's find out for sure. Yeah. Look at that. 5 and 6k hits on average. Soul power that's doing 3.5k hits. Okay. This is stronger than my last Thorns build. This is my new meta right here. This crit build. Holy crap. This is the build. I love it. I absolutely love it. So now that I've shown you the build and I've shown you what it can do, let's go ahead and talk about the pets and see what we need to make this work on the pets point of view. Let's talk about the pets, shall we? What you're going to want for this build is the Owl Lux, because it provides you with a boost to your critical hit chance, and that gives you everything you need to really get above and beyond in this build. You do have a lot of options though, depending on how close you want to get to 100%, as well as what armor you've decided to use. Because if you're wearing the Paladin armor, you can sacrifice a little bit of the Owl Lux's critical hit chance and make that up with buff food instead. So that gives you a little bit of flexibility. I recommend putting as much as possible into critical hit chance. If you can at least get 3, that's great. If you can pull off 4, that's even better. I don't really think 5 is necessary. In my opinion, the perfect one is this one. 4 Spirit of the Hawks, giving you a 12% boost to the critical hit chance, and 1 Triple Trouble, making it so that every now and then you're going to do triple damage. Those were the times that we periodically saw me just do 8 or 10k, or even there was, I think, a 15k one there during the Thorns fight. If you aren't able to find this setup, because it took me a while to get this. I think I had to find... I want to say it took me 50 or 60 lively eggs to get this. It took me a while. Other options, this one only has 3 Spirit of the Hawks, but it has 2 Triple Troubles, which can be really good as well. Your critical hit chance does go down a bit, but your chances of doing triple damage do go up. Additionally, I managed to get this one when I was trying to get the one with Triple Trouble, and this one gave me extra critical hit damage. So if you don't get Triple Trouble, extra critical hit damage is great, extra range damage is great, extra melee damage is great. There are a lot of other options that actually do work well with Spirit of the Hawk, so that you do have choices. Don't feel like you absolutely have to get this one that has 4 Spirit of the Hawks and 1 Triple Trouble. This is just my personal preference. There are other things that work just as well. So now that we've taken a look at the pets, let us take a look at the food. All right, let's talk about the food. If you've seen my other build videos, you're going to recognize a whole bunch of these because I reuse a lot of my foods. So first, we have got the Elder Mold Cheese. This one is made with the Golden Profungi and the Elder Dragonfish. Now, the Elder Dragonfish, you're going to find this in the desert biome in the lava. Same thing with the Verdant Dragonfish. You're going to find this in the lava. The sandy spikeback, however, you're going to find this one just in the regular water in the desert biome. Same thing with the Tortoise kingfish, regular desert water. Finally, we've got the bright lava eater and we've got the dark lava eater. All of these fish are fished up in the desert biome in the lava. So all of your fish you're going to get in the desert biome. Continuing on, we have got the verdant pepper wrap. This one is made with the golden bomb pepper and the verdant dragonfish. And then we have got the sandy fruit smoothie. This one is made with the golden pupaya and the sandy spikeback. Then we have got the royal stone dip snack. And this one is made with the golden carrack and the Tortoise kingfish. Now, these are all the ones that you're going to use if you are using ranged. If you are using melee, however, you can probably get away with not using the sandy fruit smoothie. However, if you decide that you are using this thorns build here, you're still going to want to use the sandy fruit smoothie because of the additional thorns damage, even though the ranged boost isn't really going to help you. The max health boost will though, so might as well. Or you can replace the golden pupaya with something else that'll give you a little bit more help somewhere else, like in the melee side, and just keep using the sandy spikeback, because the sandy spikeback is what gives you the thorns and the health boost. So if you are using melee, the bright tropic smoothie is an excellent one to use. This one is made with the golden pine grapple and the bright lava eater. As well, for the melee, we've got the dark lump soup. This mostly boosts your mining, but also gives you some life on melee hit. And since mining damage does increase your melee damage, this is useful. It's made with the golden grumpkin and with the dark lava eater. So now real quick, let's go ahead and talk about the skills that are important to making this build work, now that you've got your food and you've got your gear. If you are doing a melee build, you are going to want miner's strength on the mining tree, which makes 10% of your mining damage added as melee damage. However, if you are not doing melee, there's really nothing in the mining tree that matters for this build. In the running tree, keeping tempo will give you a 15% damage boost after you've been moving for a short period of time, and that's going to be really important to getting that extra damage. If you are going down the melee tree again, there are a wide range of skills that are important for melee. The additional melee hits for a short duration, the additional melee damage that stacks, you've got the additional melee damage when you hit the same target successfully, and the additional damage against bosses. All of these are important if you are doing a melee build. However, if you are not, none of them matter. On the vitality tree, I like to hedge my bets a bit because I never know how much damage I'm going to be taking at any given time or how difficult a boss is going to be for me. So I take both strong and healthy to give me extra damage while I'm at max health, as well as desperate fighter to give me extra damage while I'm at low health, so that I have a damage boost pretty much no matter what. On the crafting tree, jewelry crafter is the only one that matters because that's what gives you the chance to get those polished items that you need to complete this build. If you already have the items, then there's nothing in the crafting tree that matters. On the ranged side, we've got quite a variety of stuff that matters for if you're doing a ranged build, and one skill that matters no matter what you're doing. So if you're doing ranged, the boost to your attack speed is nice. The additional damage that stacks is also great. And then the chance to increase your critical hit chance by 100% really doesn't matter for this build because we're already sitting at 100% critical hit chance. So you could probably skip this if you really wanted to and put those 5 points into maybe focused accuracy if you're going to stand still a bit. However, if you are going to do focused accuracy, you need to get your timing right, because the tempo, you need to move around a little bit to get this damage boost. And then you have the damage boost. I believe it takes 2 or 3 seconds in keeping tempo to get the boost. And then you have it for about 8 seconds. On the ranged tree, focused accuracy also takes about, I think, 3 seconds or so of standing still to be able to get it. And then you also have it for about 8 seconds. So if you move around a lot and then you stand still, you'll have a brief 3-second, 4-second window maybe, where you are getting the boost from both focused accuracy and keeping tempo. But you have to be very careful about what you're doing, otherwise you're kind of negating one or the other. Now, amplified precision gives you a boost to your critical hit damage, and this is useful no matter what you're doing, melee or ranged. You're going to want to go down this tree and you're going to want to get amplified precision. Also, charging in is really terrible, but sometimes you have to take it in order to get to the other skills that you want. Going down the gardening tree, we've got a couple of things that matter here. First, we have got thorny weapons, which increases our critical hit damage. That is always useful. And if you are also going down with the scarab armor, then getting thorny skin to increase your thorns damage is also useful to take. However, if you aren't using the thorns build, you don't need to take thorny skin if you don't want to. On the fishing tree, we've got two skills that really matter. One of them, the power of omega-3, gives you a boost after eating food with cooked fish, and that's what we're doing, so that one's useful. And then well-trained aim is very useful if you're on a ranged build. If you're using melee, you don't need it, but if you are using ranged, I would not take studied patterns because you're not going to need that 10% dodge chance, and instead I would take well-trained aim to give you that boost to your fishing in order to kind of boost up your ranged damage. If you do take well-trained aim, I recommend that you make some sort of food that uses the astral jelly, maybe the heartberry, the golden heartberry, and the astral jelly. So that way you will get a boost to your fishing as well, which will also give you a boost to your ranged damage. But it's only if you take well-trained aim. If you don't take well-trained aim, then the astral jelly isn't going to give you any benefits. Finally, we have got the cooking tree, and the most important one here is the smell of food, which just gives you a 20% damage boost. Very useful to have. And so there you have it, folks. This is my critical hit build. Getting that critical hit chance pretty much up to 99 or 100%, while also jacking up our damage and just ripping bosses to absolute pieces. I really think that this might be the new meta for the game, at least until we get another update that gives us some more stuff, because this is really, really strong. It's great at one-shotting enemies when you're roaming around in the wilds because it does critical damage all the time, and it's wonderful for taking down bosses. It rips them to pieces. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and if you did, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe and share this with your friends because they're going to want to see this too. This is a great build, and until next time, stay crazy.